everybody. Welcome to the number one comic podcast. I'm your host, Jonah. With me, as always, is Bill. Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Jonah.
I feel like it's been a really long time since we've had a chance to do this.
Yes.
Which, it has been a while because...
May not seem that long for a viewing audience. But
no,
for
probably like
recording.
2 weeks for a viewing audience standpoint. It feels like a long time for me as I'm like trying to get this stuff done, but unfortunately, like, life gets in the way sometimes.
Right.
In case anyone who's listening to this does not know, we don't get paid to do this.
No.
In fact, I think we probably spend money to do this.
Right.
And yeah, life gets in the way. I'm a traveling. I sell MacGuffin devices door to door, and between work and changes on the home front, had to postpone recording for a few weeks. But we're back. And we're going to do some recordings here and get these next several episodes out. We've got so much more to talk about and coming. I can't wait. Appreciate everyone joining us. As always, like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook. Check us out on wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, YouTube. We're on there as well. And part of the Field of Geeks Network. So special thanks to everyone at the Field of Geeks Network for helping make this show happen. Special thanks to Raven X for the awesome theme song.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything when I do these intros?
I don't think so. Not that I'm sure Josh has all the links in the description and everything.
Correct. Yeah, so all the links will be out there, I'm sure. Anyone who's new to this podcast, if you're just checking it out for the first time, like the name implies, we are a podcast dedicated to the review and discussion of first issues. And today we are talking about Sword Issue 1. Yeah. Had you heard of this title or this organization or this group before reading this?
Before reading this, the only Sword I knew of was from the WandaVision series on Disney Plus, which is totally different. Yes, but it's sort of built or based on this idea or this initial incarnation. Right. But yeah, very different than what we see in the comics. So this book, titled Sword, published by Marvel Comics, it cover dated January of 2010. So I'm thinking it came out probably late 2009. So November 2009, something along those lines. Cover price on it was $3.99. Writer on this is Kieran Gillen, and the art was Steven Sanders. Now, SWORD is an acronym for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. Mm-hmm. Because Marvel loves their acronyms. They do.
It was created to deal with extraterrestrial threats that, it's kind of the space-based counterpart of S.H.I.E.L.D., so to speak, is how I look at it. This organization, relatively new at this time, it first appeared in Astonishing X-Men number 6, which we talked about Astonishing X-Men number 1 in like one of our very early episodes, because I love that title. And so, this appeared kind of at the tail end of that first story arc. Yeah. The cast includes Abigail Brand, Sidron, X-Men's Beast, and Lockheed, and those are all characters that we see on the cover here as well. So the Sword as a concept was created by Joss Whedon, who, again, we talked about going back to Astonishing X-Men number 1. Right. Probably not going to talk about it much going forward because he's not really there anymore. He's not in the zeitgeist anymore for reasons. I mentioned the cover. On the cover, we do have a static cover. We've got the 4 members of the organization standing or hovering, so to speak, with Lockheed. We've got Abigail Brand, kind of front and center, Beast, Lockheed, as I mentioned, and Sidron. Let's go ahead and dive into the series, or into the issue, rather. So we open the issue in Commander Brand's office on board the Peak, which is the name of their base of operations. That's the orbital satellite that they're based out of. The commander is being briefed on some extraterrestrial going-ons, like a group of aliens that are called the Dranks that are calling a meeting. There's a fugitive who's seeking asylum from a bounty hunter that's in hot pursuit. When the person who's giving the commander this sitrep asks what they should do, the commander, who's actually not even revealed to be Brand here, it's Gyrick, advises that they should do nothing at all. Gyrick states to hold off all alerts until 10 a.m. He wants to ensure that Commander Brand has a very busy day. Speaking of Commander Brand, this is the point where she barges into her own office, wanting to know why Gyrick is sitting in her chair, and he reminds her that they're now co-commanders. She's no longer in charge by herself. She accuses him of being an Osborn-appointed pawn, so I guess a little context may be warranted here. Right. At the time that this book was released, Norman Osborn was a hero of the people. Mm-hmm. He was the Iron Patriot. He ran the Dark Avengers, and he ran an organization called Hammer, which is what replaced the defunct S.H.I.E.L.D. for a time.
Right.
So he was pretty much running the MCU at that point.
Right.
Did you read much about Marvel Comics at that point in time when it was sort of this Dark Reign, I think is what they titled a lot of it?
So not when it came out, but I went back later and read some of the collections of Civil War. So that's where I kind of learned about, Hammer.
Yep.
Learned about Norman Osborn, kind of reevaluating his image a little bit.
Hammer was kind of born out of Secret Invasion.
Okay.
And Osborn, like, spoilers for a comic that's 20 years old. Right. Osborn was kind of the guy that took down the alien, the Skrull Queen, at the end of Secret Invasion, which is kind of how he became a hero to people. And then Dark Reign lasted so long, where you had the Dark Avengers, you had this sort of thing, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this in a bit. And then that kind of led into the Heroic Age, which then led into things like Marvel Now. So anyway, I digress. Back to the issue at hand. Gyrick scoffs at the accusation and calls Brand paranoid. He also accuses her of being incompetent after allowing an alien invasion of Earth, leaving Hammer to clean up the mess. Now, choosing to move the discussion along, Abigail asks why he's there, and he reminds her of a meeting with their superiors and that she needs to be there at 10:10 sharp to prep for it. We then cut to San Francisco, where Dr. Hank McCoy, a.k.a. Beast, is hopping in a car. For some reason unknown to me, this beast looks very horse-like, or almost more like a kangaroo, as opposed to the feline appearance he'd had over the last several years. The car is like one of those out of The Last Starfighter, in that it transforms to take off into space and takes Hank up to the peak. Inside the gravity well, which that's the name of a bar on board the Peak, Sidron is sitting with Lockheed, which Lockheed is a small purple dragon, and he's a longtime pet of Shadowcat or Kitty Pryde from Excalibur and Astonishing X-Men fame. Sidron's worried for Lockheed and can tell that the dragon's hurting. Lockheed is guzzling down a bottle of booze and doesn't want to hear it. Sidron is interrupted when he's given a tablet containing the priority reports for the Queen of all bitches, as the guy addresses her. Sidron corrects the messenger that it's Commander Queen of all bitches to him. He then runs off after glancing at the report. Sidron finds the commander, or commanders, because it's both Gyrick and Brand that he runs into, and informs her of the Drenx pirates that had called. She's annoyed that this is just now being brought to her attention, though Gyrick knew earlier that morning. Brand leaves Gyrick to attend the meeting with those who must be obeyed, while she tends to her other duties. This is playing right into Gyrick's plan. Hank has reached the ship, and he actually passes Abigail and Sidron in the hall. She's got very little time for hellos or even the muffins that he brought her. She tells him, I haven't time for acts of affectionate sweetness. I've got to save the world. Beast responds, oh, it's a save the world before breakfast type of day. I didn't realize. Handing off his muffins and coffee to a passerby in the hall, Beast follows Brand and Sidron. Brand goes to address the Dranks diplomats who have arrived at the peak, as Sidron tells her of the second issue, which is the alien-seeking sanctuary. Brand initially dismisses it until she's informed that the alien is her brother, well, her half-brother to be precise. It's a character named Lothithiniaxis. Lothi for short, thank God, because I don't think I could say that name again. I don't think I said it right the first time, let alone any time after that. Brand leaves Sidron to keep the Dranks entertained while she deals with her brother. On the bridge, Lothi, her brother, is in custody. He looks sort of like Jax from Star Wars, you know, the Green Rabbit from the Star Wars Expanded Universe.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it reminds me of, Jackson. But he also kind of then looks like a green version of Beast, who is her boyfriend, which is kind of weird.
Right.
Anyway, Lothi explains that he was on a legal dig/excavation, and the next thing he knows, he's being pursued by a big metal goon accusing him of stealing some priceless artifact. Lothi claims he doesn't have the said artifact. Brand tasks a crew to search her half-brother's ship, and she wants patched in to speak with the bounty hunter. The bounty hunter is none other than Death's Head. Death's Head offers to cut her in on his bounty at 10%. Brand declines. She states that if they find the artifact, that they'll get it to him, but he doesn't get his hands on Lothi. Brand and Beast set Lothi up in a temporary quarters. Beast asks, was this all too easy as terms of, you know, getting the bounty hunter off their back, getting Lothi set up? And Brand replies, yeah, way too easy. And it was. An explosion rocks the peak. Beast and Brand find a hull breach at Lothi's room, and it seems Death's Head's ship was able to cloak itself, clamp to the ship, blow a hole in it, and suck Lothi out and into his ship. So Brand orders the Falchion to be prepped for launch, and also to prep her A-team, other than Sidron, who is babysitting the Dranks. She also states that she's going to have to talk to the robot. Lockheed is still in the bar. He gets a call to board Stiletto Zero immediately. Brand and Beast race down to the Peak's brig. It's a maximum plus security center. Before entering, Brand tells Beast to keep his adorable furry mouth shut once he's on the other side. And waiting for them on the other side is a prisoner of Sword. It's a robot called Unit. Unit greets them as if he knows them. Brand asks if Unit can help them get past Death's Head's ship's stealth field. He does, and he agrees to forward on the information. As they exit, Beast asks if the robot is psychic, because the robot seemed to know who Beast was and about their relationship, etc. Brand says no, and that she'll have to explain it later. On board the Falcon, or the Falcon 1, I think it's called, is Sword's flagship. Beast, Brand, and Lockheed are in pursuit of Death's Head and her half-brother. They're actually going to be taking this smaller ship called Stiletto Zero. So she orders the launch of Stiletto Zero since they've got their target coordinates locked onto. This is a high-performance interceptor, and it launches from the Falcon 1 ship. On board Stiletto Zero is a boarding torpedo, and on board that boarding torpedo is Beast, Brand, and Lockheed. That's the boarding party. The boarding torpedo fires off. Their mission is to quickly disable the stealth field so that other Sword teams can intercept the ship. The torpedo smashes through the hull of the ship. Inside the ship, you've got Beast. He's prepping the stealth disruptor. He reassures Brand that though they've faced their challenges in the past, this is a simple rescue mission, which they're all very good at. Just as Beast activates the stealth disruptor, it is blasted to bits by Death's Head. The trio of heroes find themselves facing down the barrel of Death's Head's cannon. On board the Peak, Gyrick is in a meeting with the powers that be, essentially using Commander Brand's absence from the meeting as the perfect opportunity to throw her under the bus and slam on the gas. He proposes that every alien present makes us, as Earthlings, more vulnerable. They have no business there, and they need to be sent home. It actually sounds like Gyrick would be in a certain administration's cabinet today, but not to get too political.
Right.
The last page of the issue, we see several images of repatriation targets. And Gyrick states, "We need to send them all home." Some of the characters that we see in this image include Marvel Boy, Hulkling, Sidron, Hepzibah, Lockheed, Awesome Android, Extreme, which was a blast from the 90s past, and Beta Ray Bill. And that's where it's going to be continued. Now, there is also a backup story. Did you read the backup story?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, it's a scene of Abigail Brand sitting down with Lockheed in her office and explaining that they found the doomsday bullet that Kitty Pryde phased through the Earth, saving the world, but trapping herself inside. This all happened in Astonishing X-Men.
Right.
So it kind of fills you in on why Lockheed is a little out of sorts, why Sidron's worried about him, why he's escaped to the bottle, so to speak.
Right.
In this conversation, so they found her, but they're still unable to rescue her from it. Lockheed then goes to see Unit. Unit claims that he'd like to help Lockheed, but he would need to be out of that prison to do so. Lockheed spits on the protective barrier and leaves, and Unit says, "No, I didn't think so. Not yet."
Right.
And that's where that one ends off. Bill, what were your thoughts on the issue?
Well, I really like this. I kind of like the stories that Marvel does that kind of take you away from Earth. There's a lot of stuff that happens on Earth. It's good to kind of like get a breath of fresh air, even though there's no air in space.
Yeah.
But this was really good. I especially like Gyrick being in it because he's always that villain that I just love to hate. Especially in the X-Men storylines, stuff like that. Gyrick's just an asshole.
He is. He's like a less successful Lex Luthor. Right? Yeah. He's kind of like Wish.com Lex Luthor.
Exactly.
But I don't mean that in a bad way, because it makes him more, for lack of a better term, like relatable.
Right.
He's got his principles, as twisted as they may be, and they may not ideal with your own ideals, but he sticks to them. He's a master manipulator, as we can kind of gather from this.
Yeah. So
yeah, I agree with you about Gyrick.
And it being related to Astonishing X-Men kind of makes sense, because I think I mentioned this when we were talking about Astonishing X-Men. The look of Beast in this is different from what I'm used to. I'm used to like the 90s X-Men Beast. He has kind of a feline look on the cover. He has more of like kind of a lupine look than what I'm used to.
So the cover is by John Cassidy, rest in peace, who was the artist on Astonishing X-Men.
Okay.
Right? Especially the initial Joss Whedon stuff. And so I think that I'm not certain about this. This is speculation on my part, and I didn't research any of this. That cover was probably drawn back around Astonishing X-Men number 6.
Okay.
Which was years before this issue came out.
Okay.
Why this artist chose to make Beast look more like a kangaroo or a horse thing, I don't know. It's a weird artistic choice, and it took me a lot to get it. It was jarring at first, and it took me a bit to get used to it.
The best way I could describe him to you, and I know we'll have the images up there on screen for you to see and everything, but he kind of looks like a blue Splinter.
Yes.
To me, where he has like kind of that lanky, that like long face, everything like that. He's got
kind of like the tuft of hair that comes off the bottom like Splinter did. Yeah, I could definitely see that. But yeah, what other thoughts did you have?
So one thing I found interesting, I kind of did a little bit of research on this. We know that Sword kind of appeared in WandaVision. They were originally going to appear in Thor and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Fox owned the rights to Lockheed and Abigail Brand.
Oh, okay.
So they couldn't use Sword or anything associated with it, which is probably why we got the sentient weapon version of Sword in WandaVision.
Yep. And I'm trying to think because I know Sword had, and we'll talk about this when we get to kind of what comes next. Mm-hmm. They had a bit of a resurgence as an organization in kind of the more recent Krakoa era of X-Men books, which we haven't really talked much about yet.
Right.
As a whole. I haven't read any of that, so I don't know how similar that was to this Sword, or how maybe more similar to the WandaVision Sword. I'm not sure about.
And you kind of mentioned too in that like kind of the last panel where they show Gyrick kind of saying like these people need to go. Mm-hmm. It's like he hasn't really stopped his old tricks. He's just shifted from mutants to aliens basically.
Just found another group of beings to hate,
right,
for whatever reason. So,
right.
Yeah. I really liked this issue. Mm-hmm. It reads more like a sci-fi sitcom than your typical team superhero book. Mm-hmm. And I really like that because, like you said, it is a breath of fresh air.
Right.
We're introduced to this kind of like small but very eclectic cast. You've got she's kind of the stock woman in power, but there's something about her that I find really compelling.
I do too.
At the same time, she's bossy, she's hyper focused, but she's quippy. She's very much a no nonsense businesswoman, which again I dig that. I do feel like we see that time and time again where it's becoming almost tropey, but I like that trope.
Yeah.
She is dating the X-Man and Avenger Beast in this. He is the more easygoing personality. He's a really good contrast to Brand. He brings a lot of humor to the book, because if you didn't have Beast and Siderin to play off of her very straight arrow, like, it would be a much different dynamic. It wouldn't be nearly as fun or as funny.
Exactly. So you always need that foil.
Yes.
There.
Yep. Lockheed's portrayed as an easily agitated alcoholic, but he's still in the shape of a cute little purple dragon. Full disclosure, I never read a lot of Excalibur. I really like the concept. I like the characters. I just never really got into it much as a series.
I never did either.
We will talk about it at some point, because I do have the series. I've just never really sat down and read all of it.
Right.
And I should do that. And so I never really had much affection for Lockheed, or even Shadowcat for that matter. I mean, she's always been very popular, and she's very cool. Yeah. But I never really read a lot about her from her past exploits with Excalibur. Very little, I guess I should say.
Right.
Siderin, this was my first time meeting him. I mean, other than, I think we probably, if memory serves me correctly, I'm sure we saw him when they were introduced in the Astonishing X-Men. I just don't really recall that much. It's been 20 plus years since I've finished reading. Did you read the whole trade?
I didn't.
No. When we were going through that, I know we looked off the trade for that first.
I kind of read like the first issue and then sort of skimmed a little bit more of it. But
okay, yeah. So he's played very straight as well, but again, that allows for some more humor when he's left with the Dranks, and it's a different kind of straight man. He's not as he's almost like, okay, there's become this new sort of trope that you see with characters, like, think of like Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, right? Or I just recently had rewatched Dungeons and Dragons, the movie, which I love. Yeah, and you've got is it Holga's Michelle Rodriguez's character? I think it's Holga.
Yeah,
she's played very much like Drax, where you get these very straight, humorless characters. That's what makes them humorous to us.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how Drax is played a little bit. And then you've got the brief appearance by Death's Head, who I've always been a big fan of.
Yeah, and see, Death's Head was another one of those trading card characters that always looked intriguing to me, but I never really bothered to read any of their...
He got his start in Transformers comics.
Oh.
When Marvel was publishing Transformers comics, that's where he first appeared. And then I first learned about him through the trading cards, like Series 2 of the trading card has this awesome art of him in it. And then shortly after that, for Christmas, I got this 4-pack of comics in my stocking, and it was Death's Head 2 was the title of it, and that was a separate character. And in that first miniseries, Death's Head 2 basically kills Death's Head and assimilates his personality, which is how he becomes Death's Head 2.
Okay.
And so I'm a huge fan of Death's Head 2, but I've always thought Death's Head was very cool as well.
Yeah.
So seeing him make appearances is always really neat to me.
Yeah.
The plotting of the issue, I think, is super tight. The humor is genuine. It doesn't ever feel forced to me. And the art, again, the art's pretty good with the exception of the Beast look. I just don't care for that look. Even once I got used to it and it wasn't jarring, I didn't care for it as much as I like.
Right.
90s Beast, the blue version from like X-Men the Animated Series, that was my Beast, right?
Right.
That's how I wanted Beast to look. Even when I saw his appearance in like, I think it was Grant Morrison that started it with like New X-Men, when he started to mutate into this more feline look.
Yeah.
I got used to it. And then to the point where I actually really like his appearance as we see on the cover here. And I wish this is how he appeared in the book itself.
Yeah.
To each their own, I guess. I'm sure there's people out there that probably really like this appearance. But yeah, that's really the one thing about this issue that I would say I didn't care for was that look of the Beast. And like I said, I got used to it. By the end of it, I didn't really notice it much. Everything else, though, really resonated with me in this book. Any other thoughts that you want to add on before we talk about kind of what came next?
I would say going into this fresh, I would definitely read more of it.
Well, it's nice because it's so disconnected from continuity. What I mean by that is you don't have to necessarily know who all of these characters are.
And I very much got the sense of that. Like, I kind of knew what was going on in the background just from me going back and reading like compendiums of different stories that have happened in Marvel. But yeah, this would be a very, like, if you're looking for like a really fresh,
easy jumping on point.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Even, and what, we didn't really talk about the robot much, but I love robot characters, especially robots that have personality. For whatever reason, I love those characters.
Yeah.
And so I really dig that character. He's very creepy. Even though his face is very pleasant to look at, he's it's very creepy at the same time.
Like there's something going on in the clockwork there that you're not quite aware of yet.
So yeah, I really like that character too. So I agree with you 100%. Excellent issue, very easy to jump onto. So as far as what comes next, so I believe this was originally intended to be an ongoing, but it was canceled with issue 5.
Oh, wow.
So this was only a 5-issue run. I actually just picked up the rest of the issues in like a bargain bin. I think I paid like $1 a piece for them. Yeah. So I've got the first 5. I've got those 5 issues. I really think that it is a shame that that's kind of how this went, because Gillen was firing on all cylinders, giving us this funny, high concepts sci-fi book that's grounded by these cool characters. I think there was a lot that really could have been explored, especially considering how vast Marvel's cosmic universe is.
Right.
I think there was so much more here they could have done. I look at all of the garbage books that Marvel puts out, which I still read some of them to this day. Like even currently today, I'm thinking of books like Weapon X-Men that I've been reading. I've read the first couple issues of. That's not any good. And they've canceled that. I mean, so that's been canceled at this point. That was also intended to be an ongoing. And I think of books like, there was another one I was reading. all new Venom, which proved to be a big disappointment to me.
Yeah.
They're putting out, and it's not just now that they're doing this. They've done this forever, where they put out stories that are not, in my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, people, that are not very good.
Right.
They're not worth the paper that they're published on. They're not worth the artist's effort that's putting into it. And then and some of those things last a lot longer than they should. You know, we talked about the last episode. We talked about Strike Force, which ran for 9 issues. That should have been canceled after the first story arc.
Right.
So that garbage gets 9 issues. This gem only gets 5. It's a shame.
Right. And I don't think you ever really know when you, from a publisher standpoint, when you print that first issue, how people are going to receive it. There's people that are going to just have a cult following behind it and going to love it, and there's people that are just going to hate it.
When the time when this came out, it was kind of right around the Realm of Kings event, and the Shadowland event, I think, was around this time. And so you got all these terrible event tie-in books that I think are just completely worthless. And it sucks that a book like this, you know, doesn't make the cut because of this effort that they're putting into. The Shadowland event was garbage.
Right.
The whole event was garbage. And they put so much into that event that it took away, I think, from things like this. So, and really, it was those events anyway that drove me away from comics, and why I didn't even discover this at the time is because those events completely drove me away from comics for several years.
Well, I think at the time, too, there was just big event after big event after big event. Yeah. And I think a lot of people at the time were experiencing burnout.
Yeah, and I think if you're somebody who wants all of those tie-ins, right, even the shitty ones, you're leaving this on the stand or on the shelf and picking up some shitty, you know, War of Kings, Realm of Kings tie-in, whatever it was. So another thing that I don't think helped this title much, aside from kind of, you know, the saturation of events and at the time, is this book. You know, we talk about the price tag at $3.99. This was one of the first books to see that price tag increase. Other books on the stands at the time were still at the $2.99 price tag.
Well, and this had a rating on it too, which I'm not very familiar with when Marvel started doing like the T and the A and all that stuff ratings. Do you think that contributed anything to it?
You know, I don't know, because I mean,
it didn't seem like it was an overly like vulgar or violent book. Yeah. You know, teenage me probably would have still picked it up and been like, okay, I like this.
Yep. No, I don't know if that would have affected it. I think what really hurt it was the price tag increase, just the oversaturation at the time with all these event books, and the fact that I think this book came out like a few years too late. Like, this should have come out right hot on the heels of Astonishing X-Men number 6. But instead it comes out years later for whatever reason. And again, I don't know much if there's a story there as to why this was delayed or why it you know, came out so much later than when they were introduced. I do remember, so like I said, I didn't pick this book up. I remember seeing it on the stand at the time, and I remember passing on it. I think I remember that if memory serves me correctly, I picked it up, I thumbed through it, and the art inside was so different than the cover art, I was like, and I put it back. At the time, I didn't really give it a chance, unfortunately. And I wished I would have given it a little more thought. So, like I said, I did recently manage to collect all the issues in the bargain bin. I think it has been collected in a trade. It's subtitled "No Time to Breathe" is what the trade is titled. Which I think, you know, based on just the breakneck pace of this first issue, is very fitting. Like I was saying, in late 2020, a second volume of Sword was released, and that ran for 11 issues. And that did bring back Abigail Brand to run the organization, but all different characters were featured. It included characters like Magneto, Cable, Fabian Cortez, The Vanisher, and Random, of all people. Wow. And I admittedly, I have not read any of that series yet, but I'm sure I'll pick it up at some point, and I think again it's available in trade paperbacks, so I'll probably pick that up and read them. Yeah. Any final thoughts on the issue from your perspective? So. I guess what I would say for my final thoughts to anybody out there who hasn't had a chance to check this out yet, read this series. It's short. It's cheap to track down. You know, again, it's only 5 issues. I'm sure you can get the trade easily enough as well.
Yeah.
And despite the 5-issue run, it reads like a complete story. You know, I think that Gillen was able to wrap up everything he wanted to in those 5 issues. Again, I don't know how much time they gave him for the notice of the cancellation, or maybe he was like, saw the writing on the wall and so wanted to be able to tell a full story in a chunk like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a super tight story. It's good. It's not your typical superhero fare, and I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, read this issue. Read this series. It's good. So that's going to do it for this discussion on Sword. We will be back next week with another all-new episode. Be sure to like, subscribe. Feedback, comments are welcome as long as they're positive. If it's negative, I'm not even going to read it. And like us on Facebook as well. We're part of the Field of Geek Network, so just go out to YouTube, look up Field of Geeks. You can find us. Look up Field of Geeks on the podcasts, and you can find us. And yeah, really appreciate it. Special thanks to everybody that helps makes this episode happen. Special thanks to all of you guys for tuning in. Special thanks to Bill for joining me.
Thanks, Jonah.
As I said, my name's Jonah, and we'll be back. See ya.
See ya.